The Diaries is supported by headlamps. Ever been stuck in the woods at night without one? Me neither. But for real, the difference between a shiver bivvy and a pleasant night hike through the woods is just a little bit of light. And every time someone joins the Diaries Plus, they give us like a little extra support to try these hard things, right? And that is incredible. It allows us to push harder because the things we're doing, the kind of stories we are creating and reporting on, it's the same thing as taking on a big climb and knowing that there's a good chance you won't make it home for dinner, but you're going to go anyway. You're going to try something difficult because you know you have that little bit of light. That's what it's done for us when people have joined the Diaries Plus. Every time someone joins and says, I support what you are doing, we believe a little bit more in ourselves. We dream just a little bit bigger for what this show, what this project can become. So please consider joining this global community. Your financial support powers this project. Link is in the show notes, or you can find it on our website. Become a member, support the show. How's it going, Lauren? Besides it being Monday.
It's a Monday. I'm having a Monday. That's for sure.
They happen, yeah. Don't they?
Yeah, sniffly with allergies and tired from having a 9-month-old baby. Yeah.
Yeah, I hear that.
How was your weekend?
It was good. I just got back from a trip, which we're going to talk about today because it was a live event. I was in Minneapolis. The Star Tribune, the newspaper there, brought me out to do a live event at their Unbound outdoor festival, which was incredible.
Have you ever been to Minneapolis before? I've never been.
You know, very quickly, like a couple times, but it's kind of like this was the most time I spent, and I actually like took a moment to kind of spend a little more time there because, part of it was that we were telling stories from people based there, so I wanted to spend a little bit of time with them beforehand. And it was awesome. I've actually been kind of on the injured reserve lately with a bad knee, and I've not been able to be outside as much as I am normally. Before the show, I got out on this incredible bike ride on a beautiful day, rode through all the neighborhoods on the south side of Minneapolis, along the Mississippi. It was it felt so good to be outside in the sun and moving my body, and it was awesome. And it was just, I love being able to see cities like that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And man, that city they're going through a lot right now. So yes. I'm sure it was also a pretty unique time for your visit.
Yeah, they've had a tough year for sure. And that was part of what the show today is about.
Yeah, so who were you talking to?
Well, we had 2 different stories, which is awesome. And I think the thing that connects them is that they're stories about how the things we love, the community, moving your body in the natural world, they can provide healing, they can be tools, they can be this incredible vehicle for building connections to not only the natural world, but to each other. We talked to Josh Klauk and Jared Alder from Angry Catfish, which is this incredible bike shop on the south side of Minneapolis. And then we also talked with Nazreen Habib from Hiking Hijabi and Amana Rek about building the thing you need and having it grow way beyond you. I'm Fitz Cahal.
I'm Lauren Delaney Miller.
This is the Dirtbag Diaries. So we'll dive in. Thanks for joining us. Josh, you opened the doors of Angry Catfish in 2010. It was a bike shop, a coffee shop, almost like a community center, realistically. I've got to say, if I had a dime for every time I heard a business talk about creating community, I would be like moderately successful, I think. But it wouldn't be rich, but I've heard it a lot. And it's something that's easy to say, but much harder to do, and it's clear that has happened at Angry Catfish. Where did the community-minded ethos come from, and what were the steps that you took to make sure that happened at Angry Catfish?
Yeah, I think it all started with being introduced into the cycling community in Minneapolis when I moved here. I moved to Minneapolis 5 years before I opened the shop and worked at another shop. Came from a small town that didn't really have bike culture or any culture that I specifically aligned with. So moving to Minneapolis and seeing so many different types of riders and so many different types of riding and riding through single track mountain bike trails and meeting all of the people that live and surround in that network was really inspiring to me. And as I spent more time in that, I just wanted to dive deeper into it and try to be part of that and help cultivate it. And I just saw a space for that, especially like in my direct community of South Minneapolis. There wasn't really a shop doing that, and there wasn't really a specialty coffee shop. So bringing those two things together and creating a place that was specifically for people to gather before they ride. There was a retail component, but it wasn't really about the retail piece of it. It was about something that was more curated and organic.
Mm-hmm. And Jared, how did you get involved in this? What drew you to Angry Catfish?
I got invited on a trip a few years ago, and I had been visiting Minneapolis for a minute. And my first stop off of the plane was always Angry Catfish. And then I met Josh. We started hanging. We saw the world in a similar view, and both coming from a small town and aligning in a larger one, centered around cycling culture in a way that I hadn't experienced even. That was really beautiful to see that existed, something that was in my brain that Josh had in his heart and brought to the world. Yeah.
What about it? Like, how do you know it? You show up, you say that like every time I show up, that's the first place I go. Like, what is that?
Yeah,
that sort of secret sauce.
Yeah, no secret, but any place that you walk in and you don't feel judged or off-put, and so many places that I went into, bike spaces specifically over my life, I always felt like an outsider. I'm a big dude and don't really look like a cyclist, and that was one of the first few that really made me feel like I fit in. So yeah, I think a place to fit in feels pretty nice.
Yeah. So with my team, I've been covering the outdoors. I've been doing the Dirtbag Diaries for almost 20 years now, and our goal is always to cover lives lived outside. I think that sometimes there's been pushback because some people in our community, they want to believe that the outdoors world, the outdoor community is this magical place where problems do not exist. And we've had to go through that. We've had to very clearly be like, no, this is a part of it. And if we're covering the human experience, we're going to cover the difficult parts, right? That is the truth of the whole thing. And I personally just think that the deep range of emotions and experiences and backgrounds, it's what actually makes it interesting. And there are times where lives interact beyond forces that are beyond. They interact with things that are beyond our control, right? And you all here in the Twin Cities have gone through quite a bit in the last few years. Obviously, this winter, Operation Metro Surge came to you all. You had masked ICE agents abducting immigrants and American citizens, and I don't need to remind anyone here about that. In December and early January, your city was in turmoil. On January 7th, Renee Good was fatally shot. The first time you guys spoke out as individuals, as a business, or it's the first time you do that, it can be really hard and can be intimidating. And going through and looking back at your Instagram, I see a small business just trying to do the things a small business needs to do, right? Just kind of survive, keep it going. Let people know your holiday hours, get people excited about being out on two wheels. And when I looked at it from the outside, it all shifts for you two, for Angry Catfish. Can you take me back to that moment where you knew you couldn't stay silent anymore?
Yeah, the day that Alex Preddy was murdered, I was on the way to take my eldest child to his first basketball practice, and we came around a corner at 26 in Chicago, and there were flashing lights and emergency vehicles everywhere, and my heart just sunk. I knew something was wrong, and we had to detour, and we went to basketball practice, and I was communicating with someone about the efforts to make it around whatever was happening, and they were like, yeah, ICE just shot someone and killed them again in our community, and my heart sank. And then, yeah, I was paying attention, and news came up, and Alex's name was dropped, and I looked, and I was like, oh, this is a customer of ours. This is really, really close. And we finished basketball practice, and we went to the bike shop and just like started talking to people, and was breaking the news to people, and then breaking the news to customers, and it was, yeah, hard.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a unique sensation to find out that someone, I mean, a month prior, Alex came into the bike shop, and we chatted a bit, and it was a pretty debilitating day. You know, I've faced a bunch of depression over my life, and I just remember this like light of a person that just was making me smile. We were joking about stuff and the season coming up, and talked about riding, and I mean, that was my first and last time ever meeting him, and I was just kind of blown away that someone could bring me out of that like slump in a way. Like, he had a really positive nature that I think everyone who has experienced his being has felt, and we've seen that in the community, in the world. And it just, yeah, it really like made my heart sink when it all came together. Yeah, just kind of sat in that moment and didn't know what to really do.
Yeah. Well, what did you do?
Yeah, I mean, when someone is murdered by someone driving, we generally host rides in memorial. I think it's the way to remember someone, and we just didn't want to let the memory of that person or any folks that were murdered by ICE go. And so, just kind of put it out into the world that we wanted to host a bike ride in memorial, and reached out to a friend that has done some stuff for me in the past art-wise, and like overnight came up with some vision behind it. Josh wrote some pretty beautiful words, just about everything that were blunt, and we just put it out into the world, and then the world reacted in a way that was, in my heart, I was like, this would feel really cool if folks like took it and ran with it, but I certainly wasn't ready for the running that people were about to partake in, to say the least. Overnight it was 100 rides and several states, and everyone was getting on board, and it wasn't like on board to be just to be part of something for the sake of being part of it. Like, it was on board because people were genuinely touched that like a good person could be murdered by our state, and allow it to happen. It's inexcusable in a lot of ways, to say the least, but put it out into the world, talked with some friends at the Radavist, launched it on there to kind of say, hey, we're going to do this thing, and would y'all like to join? And then from there, bikepacking.com took it over. Ride with GPS hopped on board and created an interactive map, so you could have like global representation of where the rides were going. And I stayed up from, like 7 a.m. to 2 a.m. every day, and that's how many emails we were getting, and just trying to coordinate and send out brand packages, like, so that people had an idea of like what we were doing, why we were doing it, with a clear mission and concise, a call to action, to hold folks accountable and bring light to everything that's happened. And from there it was, like I said, dozen places, then 100 places, and by weekend we were over 300 spaces across the world, 16 countries, 47 states, I believe, that gathered together, and we rode at the same time across time zones as one in unity for remembrance. And that is beautiful. But I mean, I said it before. You know, Alex deserved, like, at the very least, one last ride. And we came together across the globe to take him on one last trip around the world. And I think that's something beautiful, that like a community of cyclists and people that didn't even ride bikes could join together in thought and remembrance in that moment. I mean, it was super heavy, but
Yeah. Do you guys have core memories from the ride itself? You know, like something that, like, I think about that a lot, of like, what will I remember when I'm older? You know, and I'm curious whether each of you have like some small little moment that sticks with you.
The gathering of people was like unreal, and it was just, people kept coming and people were parked. Like, some people, clearly there was a ton of people coming and riding in to the park to gather, but then there were like, it was like you were at a bike race because cars were pulling up, so it wasn't just like Minneapolis centralized community. You could see that the community, the greater cycling community and human community, was coming together from further away. We had friends or people we hadn't met that became friends come in from California, that flew in with their bikes to ride, and the people just kept coming. I mean, we had a ride organization meeting the night prior, and folks that have lots of experience ride marshaling were like, whoa, we need to be prepared for 500 to 1,000 people. And like, I had to laugh a little bit because I knew we would see more than that. But
How many people showed up?
guesstimates are 5,000 to 7,000 people.
That's incredible.
yeah.
The realities of running a small business, caring for your employees, caring for your team members, they don't go away, like in moments like this as history is unfolding on front of your doorsteps. And, you know, obviously there's this huge moment and there is this incredible thing that happens worldwide. And I'm curious, like, as that moment passes, how has this changed you? Like, that ability to kind of step into this role of leader, of organizer. I mean, I know in a way it's always been there in your guys' worlds, but this is amplified, right? When you do something like this, it's just beyond that. And I'm curious, like, how do you think it's changed you?
Yeah, I mean, I think the reality is it's like, you know, the whole setup of everything is that we exist in a place, specifically like Minneapolis, right? But in a community that, like, if we didn't have folks that had our back and were able to organize, like, it wasn't just us. Like, it was, you know, folks from Genosac, Melanin in Motion, the Price Brothers, Unsanctioned Ride Group, and Bonesaw Cycling Collective. Without those other groups of friends and organizational, you know, help, like, none of it could have happened, right? Like, marshaling 7,000 people for an hour and a half is not something that can happen. But, you know, we talk, I didn't really touch on, like, core memories too much, right? But during the ride, as you can imagine, a wave of people, you know, taking that long to roll through neighborhoods that were impacted directly by ice. We saw residents come outside on a sunny day for the first time, I would have to guess, in that month. And for me, like, that was the core memory. I was like, it's not about like remembering it. It's about standing against this oppression, and like, we all should stand against the oppression, and stand with one another. Like, otherwise, talking about unity is nothing. But you know, without everyone that had our backs, like, none of this could have happened. And we are super thankful to be, like, you know, part of our community and able to, you know, like, stay afloat, be in business, do the things that normal businesses have struggled with. Like, we are super privileged to exist in that space. You know, like, we weren't as impacted as folks on Lake Street. You know, so, like, do some visiting today after this, you know, go downtown, say hello to your neighbors. But the amount of love that came through was something that I've never seen or experienced. And I think it's like it's Minnesota, like it's y'all. Like I'm from Pennsylvania originally, and this was not the existence I grew up in. And it is absolutely magical to see how the community comes together, takes care of one another, and it has shown the world that can be normal, right? Like how magical would it be if we existed in a world that was Minnesota? It's pretty perfect.
Alex's family wrote you, and it's a pretty powerful message. A lot of thanks, a lot of love. I'm curious, what was it like to even just get that feedback from them?
I mean, that was extremely heavy, you know. I can't imagine, like having only spent a small time, right? Like meeting Alex, how loved he could feel, like from his family, and like that would be shared, right? Because you don't develop into being that person without like an absolute and utter like loving upbringing. I can't imagine, right? Unless you're just acting against what you grew up with, and like I could not imagine. I have no children, right? But I could not imagine like being a parent of that and having to see that, but also then on a global stage, like seeing someone slandered for taking care of someone else, for standing up for one another, like that is crazy. So I can't fathom it, you know. But I think it just pay respect to folks that took a moment to stand with one another. Like, yeah, I still super heavy thinking about it. Like,
yeah. I think that, you know, riding bikes is fun. It's like there's so much joy in it, right? And it's like, I mean, you can look out right now and see people zipping around, and it's incredible. I mean, I've known people that have used bikes as a way to facilitate democracy in the developing world. They are tools, and I think it is really awesome to see what you all did, and you helped turn those two wheels into this ability to speak up and to protest and to stand against evil. And I just want to say thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for being here. Thank you for building the things we need in our community through shops like Angry Catfish. Thank you. And I just appreciate you all. So, everyone, Josh and Jared.
After the break, Nazarene Habib and I chat about her experience founding and growing Hiking Hijabi. Stick with us. Everybody hikes. No matter what sport you're doing out there, you're going to do a little hiking. It's awesome. Moving through the woods, spending time on the trail with a friend, with a family member, even a new friend. Oboz Footwear knows nothing in the world unifies the human-nature connection more than the shared love of hiking. Oboz set up camp in the legendary hiking and backpacking hub of Bozeman, Montana. With millions of acres of peaks, valleys, rivers, and the greater Yellowstone ecosystem in their backyard, Oboz has made the most out of its natural R&D lab. They create footwear that delivers unmatched fit, unrivaled feel, and exceptional performance to give you the tools you need to get out there and really love hiking. To find your next pair of footwear, check out obozfootwear.com/lovehiking. Thanks, Oboz, for supporting the show. There are seasons for running, and then there are periods for being injured. So, yeah, I'm a little bit on the injured reserve right now. I'm getting out walking slowly, doing my PT exercises, and mostly propping my feet up and icing. The good thing is that my feet are warm. My feet are comfortable. They're wonderful. Darn Tough still has my feet covered. with their incredible socks. They've been making awesome socks for over 40 years in Vermont. They pride themselves on using merino wool sourced from America and around the world, and they back it up with an unconditional guarantee for life. If these aren't the longest lasting socks you ever owned, return them for another pair. Darn Tough is offering free shipping on any order for Diaries listeners. Use the code DIRTBAG at checkout. We'll put a link in the show notes, or visit darntough.com to find your new favorite pair of socks. Your feet deserve it. Thanks to Darn Tough for supporting the show. So I've been traveling a lot this year. It's not my favorite thing to do, but it is awesome. Go to some incredible places. I've been actually putting some of the cassava I've been using in a Ziploc bag, which isn't always ideal, but I've really appreciated being able to travel with that stuff. So I am psyched that cassava now has travel packs. It makes it super easy to pack a few in my bag, whatever direction I'm headed. Cassava's whole body meal shake keeps your body and mind nourished all day, no matter where you are, even backpacking. With 2 scoops of cassava, you get 85 plus superfoods, nutrients, and plant-based ingredients. So not only am I getting 25 grams of plant-based protein, I'm also getting adaptogens and supergreens at the same time. Cassava has 7 flavors to choose from, including their newer ones, coffee and strawberry. Yay coffee. Take your daily ritual with you. Go to cassava.com and use the code DIARIES for 15% off your first order. That's cassava, KACHAVA.com, code DIARIES.
Nazreen Habib, founder of Hiking Hijabi, executive director of Amana Rec. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
As a very young child, you and your family, you were forced to flee Somalia during the ongoing civil war. And you ended up escaping to Uganda, to a refugee camp. And when we talked, you shared with me that those were some of your like fondest memories because you were outside. And so I'm just like, tell me about that, because there was like a disconnect in my mind. Like what I imagined being in a refugee camp was very different from or like the joy that you might experience as a child was very different from what I imagined. Yeah. So I was just like, will you start there and just share those memories from that chapter?
Yeah, absolutely. So by the time we migrated from Somalia, I was probably about 4 years old. And I don't really have a lot of memories of, before that. I remember us kind of fleeting, and after that, just kind of bouncing around between Kenya, Uganda, and Ethiopia, trying to settle somewhere that we can call home. And at some point, for about 2 years, we ended up settling in a refugee camp in Uganda. So before moving and settling at the refugee camp, I had no prior kind of like memories of what Somalia was like and other parts of Uganda and Ethiopia. So the refugee camp was set up in a way that it was like permanent camping. We had like mud huts. It wasn't like the ones that you see maybe in Kenya, which was heavily saturated, and they had like tents. In addition to that, like it was kind of all year round camping with your friends and your community, and everybody looked like me. Obviously, we didn't have all the luxuries of the first world. We didn't have electricity. We had an outhouse and compost toilet. That's where I first learned about compost toilet. And then we kind of cooked over fire, and essentially we were living there. But my mom, I'm sure, obviously, and my parents were struggling, trying to figure out how they're going to survive this, and they're not used to it. But me as a kid, I'm like, oh my God, this is so much fun. You get to be with your family, telling stories and cooking over the fire every night. And so when I asked my mom, she was like, that was like the hardest time of her life, because for her, she came from like a developed country and the luxuries of having a actual house with running water and all the amenities that you can need, and then coming into like this just wilderness and being settled there, not knowing when you're going to leave. Eventually, after 2 years, we had to leave because my mom, got sick with malaria, and we had to move to Kampala. But before that, we literally just kind of felt like we were, to me, now when I look back, I'm like, okay, this is what camp feels like, being in community and being with your loved ones 24/7. And not having to worry about like not feeling safe and not feeling like you don't belong, which is completely different than camping in the US, you feel like, oh, I don't know if people are going to accept me because I look different, you know? Everybody there looked like me. We spoke the same language. We practiced the same religion. So it was essentially just, yeah, it was a nice camping experience that is what I'm essentially trying to recreate here in the outdoors in Minnesota for my community.
Yeah. And you know, obviously after the time in the camp there, you bounced around, your family bounced around. Eventually you guys came to the US, you settled in Houston. Did that connection to the natural world sort of disappear, that connection to that feeling of going camping, like all that? Like, was that something that you were able to maintain as a family when you moved to the US?
Absolutely not. I don't know if you guys have been to Houston. Texas is big, and Houston is really big. It's like one of the largest cities, and you have to commute by car everywhere. Even we didn't take the public transportation as much. Access to the outdoors was really hard. Number one, everybody was just pretty much enjoying city life. I can't even remember going for a hike there. I had to find like a hiking group right before I left. But for the most part, it felt like it wasn't set up to be outdoorsy. It's really hot, so people are generally inside during the day, and they're outside shopping and eating at night. There's not really a outdoor community, and growing up there, obviously we're trying to still figure out how we fit in, and you have to go to school, and you have all these things that you have to do. So there weren't additional activities even in the school. I was very involved in my school. I was part of like almost every club, but there wasn't an outdoorsy club, so yeah. I would have joined. Houston's really not very as nature forward as I feel like Minnesota is.
Yeah. How did it come back into your life? Like the being outdoors, hiking, like moving around. Yeah. How did that come back into your world?
So in 2009, my mom decided she wanted to move to Minnesota from Houston. Again, looking for community. Minnesota is, I feel like, the largest Somali population in the U.S. And so for a long time, as a refugee, you move around and you're always feeling like there's no place like home. Like you're looking for that belonging. So this was an attempt for my mom to get close to some sort of Somalia-like, space. And so she said, I want to move to Minnesota, and I'm not going to go unless you all agree. And so we said, okay, we'd move with you, because by then I was done with high school, and I was going to enter college. And so I moved here in the dead of winter, bad move, to move to Minnesota in the dead of winter. And then essentially I lived here for 2 months, and I was experiencing severe seasonal depression. At that time, I didn't know I was experiencing seasonal depression. So I told my mom I can't live here. Like, I quickly packed my bag, actually, and moved back to Houston. And then after living there for about a year, away from my family, I'm one of 9 siblings. That was also really hard for me. I've never lived apart from them. I decided I'm going to apply to the U of M. And if I get in, that means it's a sign that I should move to Minnesota. So 2012, I got into the Department of Psychology at the U of M. And so again, I moved here in January, the dead of winter. I was experiencing the same thing, like halfway through my first semester, I was experiencing that severe seasonal depression. So I was like, you're a psych major. There's clearly something happening, so you need to get help. So I went to go get help, and they diagnosed me with having SAD, which I've never experienced in my life. I didn't even know what that was. So then it was either medication or nature therapy. So I opted for nature therapy. I started doing walks and going on hikes and just walking around campus, eventually joining hiking groups, and it wasn't really consistent. And then fast forward, 2016, we had the campaign that Donald Trump ran on, which was very much Islamophobic, and so the outdoors didn't feel safe anymore. As a Muslim woman who's, obviously visible, I felt like my hijab was causing me to be a target. We've seen a rise in attacks across the country and even in Minnesota against Muslim women just simply for being Muslim. And so I then decided to not go outside anymore. So I then looked for groups. I found several groups. They weren't consistent. So eventually I decided I'm going to try to see if there's other people who want to go outside on a regular basis. So I put a post on Instagram, and I created the Instagram account Hiking Hijabi, and I said, we're going to hike the state and see. I just showed up, see who's going to show up. There was no confirmation. There was no reservation. I wasn't even like, let me do an RSVP to see who's going to actually come. So then 9 other women joined me, and since then we've been hiking every Saturday.
Where's that first hike?
Afton State Park.
Afton State Park.
Yeah.
And were you surprised? Did 9 feel a lot, or did 9 feel like the perfect amount, or like what did that?
I was surprised to get a single person. I didn't have any confirmation that anybody was going to show up, so I was just like, me and my boys, I just packed them in a car and I went.
Yeah. So that was a win. That
was an absolute win.
Jumping back to that, like I relate to going through dark winters. I live in Seattle. I was sort of joking with somebody that I think Seattle, I've been here for 2 beautiful days of weather, and I feel like Seattle does the same thing to visitors, is that you'll show up and be like, it doesn't rain here, it's beautiful out, and then you move there and then you go through a winter and you're like, this is a very real thing.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of light, the weather is difficult, and I have to I always set up my world so that I have to will myself outside because I know I feel better when I do that. And I'm curious if there was a moment for you as you were working through that seasonal affective disorder, where you realized it wasn't just medicine, but it was awesome.
Yeah.
You know, that it was something that wasn't just fun, but it was something you needed. You know, was there like a moment in the cold or in the snow where you're like, this is actually amazing to be outside at this time of year?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, beyond just even hiking, we needed community. You needed to see and interact with people that look like you're just other human beings. We came out of COVID, so we started in 2022, and it was just like we were isolated. You know, everybody had to just kind of stay with their immediate nuclear family. And so everybody was kind of looking for that space to come together and not just experience nature therapy, but just reconnect with other human beings. And so it was refreshing to see that, people are really coming out because they also wanted to socialize and they wanted to talk about what they've been doing and what's going on and how they're dealing with, just the world at that time. And it's continuously became a platform right now where we're not only hiking, but we're really talking about what's going on locally and globally to communities that look like us. And as Minnesotans, we've experienced, a really harsh winter, but also with everything else that came along. And so our hikes recently have been very heavy, very reflective, creating space for us to kind of debrief and almost be therapeutic for us to be okay, we experienced something really hard, and so now let's just leave it on the trail and just try to figure out how we're going to take advantage of this nice weather that's coming up.
Yeah. I think there's in the outdoor community, and it's broader than that, but there's the idea that necessity is the mother of all invention. And there's certainly inside the outdoor community, many people have sort of gone through something similar where they start something because they need it, right? And then all of a sudden they realize I'm not alone in this desire to have this thing.
Yeah.
And, obviously Hiking Hijabi, it grew from that first. Was it actually the Instagram handle right away, or was it just your Instagram handle?
No, I created a separate Instagram, and my friend was like, is this you, or did somebody impersonate you? I said, no, this is me. And I didn't want to connect it to my personal one because I really wanted to make it its own thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so from that first 9, where did it go? Because it is I mean, it's an understatement to say that it's flourished. Where has it gone since that first 9?
Yeah. So right now, within our WhatsApp group chat, we're close to 800 women. We've surpassed that in the past. Some people are still part of our community. They join us on our website. We also have now added hiking Uma, which means hiking community, so men can join our hikes, so the whole family. And we're close to about 1,000 Twin Cities members. And then we have a chapter in Rochester, soon coming St. Cloud, and then we have a chapter in Rockland, New York, and then soon coming major cities in the U.S. So not only locally are people reaching out and saying, I want to join, they're saying, we want to be a part of this, so how can we replicate it? So now anybody who says that they want to create a similar kind of like a chapter in their city, we're asking them to come into 2 hours a week to lead a hike, and then we just get them started.
Yeah, you had a motto really early on, rain or shine, which I love.
Yeah.
It's sort of like no bad days, right? I think this is sort of a metaphor in there too, right? In a way, the definition of community, real community, shows up rain or shine, right? Like that is sort of what it means. There are going to be difficult days. There's going to be not so nice days, but there's also going to be a lot of great days, and the community's there for both of it. Do you think that on the actual rainy days, like when you would actually go out hiking, did that actually solidify people's bond to the group more than maybe the nice days did?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of times people want a leader who says this is what we need to do, and they're willing to follow you. But if you waver, then they're going to just be like wishy-washy about the situation. The reason why rain or shine for me was that within the other hiking groups that I joined, it was always like inconsistent. People would cancel last minute because of not enough people were showing up. The weather was like not so good. It could drizzle and they'd be like, no. And so I learned from all those experiences, and I said, that's what I don't want to do. So within my group, we had a list of, I think, 13 rules in our description, just to kind of prepare people. We're never canceling our hikes. We're never changing the date of time. We hike every week, so you can join. If you miss this one, you can join the next one. We also give opportunities to join us at our Dikar walks, which is like we do daily walks at Stone Arch Bridge, which we call reflective walks. And so we give a lot of opportunities for people to opt in to at any point that we're not going to like accommodate even the majority of the group and eliminate the needs of the few that are willing to show up. So even if one person comes, we're still going to hike. And then one thing that was really hard is like, but it's raining, and I'm like, okay, then get a rain jacket. Like, and that's part of our registration is these are all the things that you need, just to kind of prep our community. It is going to rain. We are going to hike, so get a rain jacket in advance. Get proper boots. Like we prep them because a lot of times I didn't know how to dress for the weather. Like literally we are afraid to go outside because we don't know how to dress for the weather. So now I had to do educational videos on how to dress and what to pack and stuff like that. And people are willing to show up and get those gear. If you teach them how to do it, they'll follow you.
Yeah. Has there been a day where you've been like, no one's really, like it's sideways raining or snowing or blizzarding? Have there been a day where it's like that and you're like, no one's going to come this day, but then you're surprised by how many people show up? Like walk me through a day like that.
The first time we did it, it was raining really heavily. We went to, this is the first year, we went to Willow River State Park. And I think some people thought maybe I was joking. They didn't take me seriously, and they showed up there without their jackets, and some people with umbrellas, and we're like, we're doing this, so you either join us or you stay in your car. So there's FOMO, and everybody joined. Luckily, it was hot, like it wasn't cold, so a lot of people end up getting really wet, and then after that, everybody got jackets.
You mentioned that this idea has spread far beyond where it started.
Yeah.
You've started a Monorec, which is a not-for-profit dedicated to cultivating stewardship and connection to the outdoors. It sounds like it's growing fast.
Yeah.
I've been around a lot of people that have done similar things where they start something and the idea takes off, and then all of a sudden a lot of different people want a piece of it. Mm-hmm. And it's an interesting thing, and it's a good problem to have as a founder.
Yeah.
But it's still a challenge to figure out, like, what do I want this to become? Because, right, you pointed out that you are the leader. You are the one that is like, I'm doing this no matter what.
Yeah.
And what other people want it to become. And I guess I'm like, what is your vision? Like, what do you hope that this whole thing can become?
For me, it's a legacy. It's beyond just creating a community. For me, it's an act of worship to resist against the hyper-consumer society that we live in, which is very much destroying our planet. And it's a way for me to, even if I leave behind, I want this to stay around for hundreds of years, where people are, like Muslims are at the forefront of what it means to be a good steward and taking care of our planet and using our Islamic values, and along with our allies, making sure that we are creating a future where our kids can, don't have to wear like oxygen masks to go to the playground, and you already see that in other countries like China and Pakistan, because of just the desire for us to just want to be happy, like find happiness from things, material things, as opposed to the human connection and nature. And so we have that in our religion and all religions. So it's about creating an opportunity where we go back to that. And in Islam, we call it your fitrah. It's something like God designed you with the inclination to do good and to want to protect his planet and our home, essentially. And so I want to go back to creating an organization and a legacy where even beyond me, our community is looking inward into what has worked and what is good to take care of each other and the planet, because we don't need medicine, and we don't need, like, essentially, unless you have cancer. And all these things, even cancer, is caused by the amount of toxins that are in pollutants. So it's two phases. One is to recreate that connection to the earth, and then to protect it.
Mm-hmm. That's such a massive goal. Like, and I feel like that's like a pretty intimidating thing to be like, no, I'm going to build something that's going to last hundreds of years. Like, that's awesome. That's like, it's like calling your shot. It's pretty incredible. Is it wild? I mean, that it also escalated pretty quickly. 2022 is not that long ago, and like, I mean, I'm just amazed because I feel like this must have been such a growth, like stepping into that leadership role. Mm-hmm. I mean, you just wanted to go hiking, right? And then
I wanted to feel safe hiking.
Yeah, and feel safe hiking. Like those are pretty bare things, and now you're sitting there and sort of being like, I would basically want to lead globally on these issues. Mm-hmm. That's incredible. Yeah. Was there a specific moment where you realized that's what you wanted to do, and not just have like a, go hiking every Saturday?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually was always passionate about sustainability and stewardship. Before even I started this group, I had another account called Hipster Hijabi, where I would promote Islamic values of stewardship and kind of encourage people to live sustainably. I would recommend them to educate themselves about what's happening in the global south. I'm Somali ethnically, and Somalia has experienced some of the devastating famine over the past 40 years, and every year it gets worse. And so as Somalis, for example, living in Minnesota, I feel like we're unaware of our contribution to their suffering. And so I'm really trying to connect them to understand you have a part in causing people that look like you, and maybe even potentially your relatives, because we all have families. We have like first uncles and cousins who haven't had the privilege to get out, who are literally every year migrating, and they're climate refugees. And to just be aware of how are we contributing to their, suffering, and how can we be more involved in terms of educating ourselves, and then changing not just how we live, but advocating for sustainable infrastructure within our politics, and getting involved with different organizations who are already doing the work. I'm going to plug in. We're doing me and Charlie Frisk from Great Northern are doing a book club called Climate Wayfinding, and it's a way for us to come together and learn from experts who have figured out ways that we can, save our planet. So, yeah.
That's so cool. Next trip. What's the next? I feel like you guys have done some incredible trips. What's next?
Yeah. I want to highlight some of the best things that have come out of this movement is opportunities to collaborate with organizations who have been doing this for a very long time. The Wilderness Inquiry, I want to shout them out. I'm sure they're here. They gave us our first grant to become a nonprofit. And they reached out to us last year and they said, hey, we see that you're doing amazing work and you're featured everywhere and we want to collaborate. So we're going to Voyager National Park with the Wilderness Inquiry.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you enjoy that.
Thank you.
Everyone, Nazreen, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you.
Thanks, Josh, Jared, and Nazreen for sharing your stories. And thanks to the folks at the Minnesota Star-Tribune for pulling this together and having me out for Unbound. It was great to see everyone there. And thanks to all the listeners who showed up. It's such a privilege to be able to connect in person. Thanks for pulling me aside and sharing your stories. Our stories come from friends of friends, and from you, our community. If you have a compelling idea for a guest or story lead, always give us a shout. You can email us at editor@ducktapedandbeer.com. So these days, this show is powered by the community. The majority of our funding comes from you, Diaries Plus members. Thank you to everyone who's signed up. For the new members out there, we appreciate it. You're allowing us to continue to do this work. It would not be here without you. Thank you. We get it. Not everyone can do that. But if you want another way to help, write us a review on Apple Podcasts. It helps others find the show. Music today from Curio and Brendan O'Connell. The tracks are courtesy of The Artists or Track Club. Jacob Bain and Nis Cotto composed our theme song. You can find the artists at our website, dirtbagdiaries.com. This episode was produced by me, Becca, and the folks at the Star-Tribune. Thank you. It's edited by Lauren Delani Miller. Illustration by Becca Call. Becca Call is also our executive producer. She's doing a lot on this episode. A lot of heavy lifting. Thanks, Becca. I'm Fitz Call, and you've been listening to the Dirtbag Diaries. Thanks for tuning in. Welcome to And Then What, the segment where we break down the headlines and figure out what the hell's happened since then. Last year, we heard from Ingrid Lyons, Executive Director of Save the Boundary Waters. Ingrid, along with hundreds of thousands of Americans, were fighting to keep protections for this incredible wilderness and stop toxic mining in the headwaters of two of the biggest freshwater ecosystems on the planet. And for a year, it worked. Huge outpourings of support for protections allowed the campaign to block several attempts to open the area back up to mining until April, when Congress used the Congressional Review Act, a tool not normally used for this type of thing. The protections were reversed, and it was a blow. It's important, too, because the CRA is a mechanism that certain Republican leaders want to use to undo protections for other places, like Grand Staircase Escalante National Monument. We got a chance to catch up with Ingrid and find out what's next for the Boundary Waters. Ingrid, thanks so much for coming back on the show. I think a lot of listeners at this point may have heard that the House and the Senate both voted to repeal the mining ban in the Boundary Waters. This is the most visited wilderness in the U.S., and the mining site that sits on the ridge between two of the greatest freshwater systems on the planet. The type of mine proposed is notoriously hard to clean up, and it's hard to keep the toxins out of the water systems. We could write a book about this, but on a high level, how did we end up here? What just happened?
What did just happen? It's not, it has been such a whirlwind because I do think in so many ways the Boundary Waters fight is becoming emblematic of a lot of public lands fights, especially when it comes to figuring out how to create something that's durable in this season of our lives where hyper-divisive politics really has the pendulum swinging so fiercely back and forth. What we saw was these representatives who really don't represent the interests of their constituents anymore and are getting less and less shy about pretending like they do. I actually got the opportunity to sit in the Senate chamber and watch the vote. And I watched Senator Sheehy read a paperback book while Senator Smith was talking. And he went to a YMCA camp on the edge of the Boundary Waters.
Mm-hmm.
He grew up in St. Paul. And so you just watch this sort of twisted values. It's just sort of like a combination of kind of all the worst factors coming together. It's much harder to build something than to destroy it.
Mm-hmm.
It's so disheartening to see how relatively easy and simple and quick it can be to dismantle years and years of scientific research, legal analysis, cultural input, public input, 675,000 comments, record-breaking numbers, comment period after comment period. I mean, the amount that went into building this thing, to watch it crumble in such short order, I think is the thing that we're all kind of reeling around and I think absorbing as a broader community.
In the polling, 2/3 of Minnesotans support protecting the boundary waters permanently and the surrounding watershed, right? That's something the Minnesotans clearly care about. To be that kind of majority, that's not just one kind of voter. Those are people that vote different ways. They're independents, they're Democrats, they're Republicans, right? Has it just sort of felt like there are backroom deals happening that the American people aren't able to tap into, or that, like, is it just because, like, I see people turning out, I see people showing up and saying we don't want like valuable resources turned over to foreign-owned mining companies, and you sort of see people just not listening. And I'm curious whether you see that as well, whether that's just me thinking that, or whether you see that working on the ground.
It's hard to acknowledge that there is so much within politics and within these backroom deals and these conversations that we are never privy to as the general public that happen on Capitol Hill. That is so true. I don't want people to focus on the fact that there's so much that they can't control because, even in the course of driving all this advocacy to get people to call Senate offices, and it still made a difference at the end of the day when a senator in Indiana was receiving multiple dozens of calls about the boundary waters every single day. And they were like, since when is this my fight?
Mm-hmm.
Why is this in my clogging my phone lines? Like, who are you people? You do have to do the work to bring it to people's attention and make it a harder vote than people want it to be. But there were offices that were really impacted by advocacy,
Mm-hmm.
by people calling, by grassroots action. Even though the headlines is that we lost the vote, we made a lot of people much sweatier than they thought they were going to be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So there's a big sort of chess game that is frustrating and elusive. But I do want people to know that they made a difference. Absolutely. This was Plan Z.
Yeah.
And we made them sweat throughout the entire execution of Plan Z. And I think that is a win for sure.
How do you sort of take 3 deep breaths and just get back to work? When something like this happens, you've poured your heart into it and it doesn't go your way. How do you respond? Like on a personal level?
It might sound trite or corny, but I have never once felt alone in my position as a leader in this movement. And I am so overwhelmed by the support on both a personal level of just friends and family, but the amount of partners and individuals and supporters, and we had people calling our office crying. There is an immense support network, both on a professional and a personal level, that I tap into. And even if I'm not having one-on conversations with all the people who feel this way, I feel it. And it makes me feel like I can get back up and do the job again. But I also I really need to like monitor and fill my cup. I am acutely aware of burnout and can feel it in myself and work really hard to stave it off. I'll be honest, the first few days I took after the CRA vote, I spent 4 straight days gardening, just like hands and knees in dirt, just like literally touching grass and disconnecting from technology. And so, I think we all need those moments of figuring out how we fill ourselves back up on a personal level. But I will say that it is a real emotional roller coaster. I wouldn't normally characterize myself as somebody who's like good under pressure. I'm only in my early 30s and became executive director when I was 28. It's been a learning curve for me. And so I'm really proud of the growth that I've personally been able to have in terms of taking care of myself. And I hope to pass that along to other people, because we can't have people burning out in these fights. It's too important. And you're not going to get a gold star for burning out.
You take 4 days, you put your hands in the dirt, and then you have to go back to work, right? Like, because it's not, this struggle is not over, right? Like, what happened is effectively these protections that you'd worked so hard to put in place, which you've been successful at in the last administration, 20 years moratorium on mining in the headwaters, they've been pulled back. But there's still a lot that needs to happen if Twin Metals, which is the sort of foreign-owned conglomerate, is able to mine there, right? Like, a lot needs to go down.
Yeah.
And so, like, what are the next steps for you? Like, how are you guys tackling this? And I mean, what can we do to help out here?
We've been here before. I mean, we spent the first decade or so of our organization being in this position where the headwaters of the boundary waters were not protected from copper mining. And then we achieved this incredible thing, like you said, in 2023, 20-year moratorium on copper mining in the headwaters of the boundary waters. And so we're back to, for all intents and purposes, we're back to December of 2022. The company, Twin Metals, has no claim in the watershed right now. So whether through legislation or more likely through administrative action, the company needs mineral leases to move forward. And then there's comment periods and permitting and environmental review at both the federal and state level. And this sounds like a lot, and it is to reemphasize the point that, yeah, shovels aren't going into the ground, bobcats aren't rolling up a week from Friday. Federal regulations that govern the processes for permitting and all the processes that mines have to go through to be approved are being gutted left, right, and center. Mm-hmm. So I don't personally take a tremendous amount of comfort in sort of the time piece. I think it is important for people to understand that mining does not have the green light, that mining is not moving forward right now. It's that the roadway has been cleared by lifting these protections. And so now we pivot. A lot of attention goes to the state. The state has a really strong opportunity to take protective action for the boundary waters. And the most important singular thing for folks to understand is there is a bill in the Minnesota State Legislature that is a permanent protection bill. And what that would do is ban hard rock mining, like copper mining, on all state lands in the headwaters of the boundary waters. It would also prohibit the issuance of leases and permits for mines in this specific geography for this type of mining. Mm-hmm. Every project in Minnesota, whether it's on state land, private land, public land, needs a state permit to mine to advance a project. And so this bill would make it unlawful to issue a state permit to mine for this type of mining in this place. So that is permanent protection. But we're really, trying to figure out how to make sure that we can keep this broad community engaged even when the fight moves to St. Paul from DC. And there's still things to accomplish in Washington. There's no question. There's still national support that we need to be able to demonstrate, because our ultimate goal is to not only undo what happened with the CRA, but to pass a permanent protection bill in Congress. Mm-hmm. And if we only react to and build for what's immediately in front of us, we're going to wake up one day where there's an opportunity to pass that bill and not have the coalition around us to do it. Mm-hmm. And so people need to keep making noise. I mean, it's easy these news cycles are so...
the flooding the zone works. Turns out.
It works. Oh my God, it works so god dang well. Yeah, and so it's tough. It is really tough. But I think, we want to keep attention on the boundary waters. We want to keep accountability for the people who purport to love the boundary waters, want to protect public lands, who then take a vote like this one. I mean, there are people who need to understand that there are consequences to their actions and their votes, and that takes a national audience. That takes people across the country continuing to express their dismay at the action of the Senate from April. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the biggest thing that the national community can do, is sort of make sure that people aren't forgetting about the boundary waters, because the fight is not over and we still need everybody.
We're posting these pieces on our website, dirtbagdiaries.com, in case you want to share. And then what? Thanks to Diaries Plus members for making this reporting possible. Links are on our website and in the recent show notes. Thank you for caring about public lands.